What if I told you the most complex ride ever made is right here in Florida? We're talking about Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. Let's call it Hagrid's for short.
Oh, thank God.
I rode this for the first time back in March, and I still can't get over how amazing this ride is. But is it a worthy successor to Dueling Dragons? Well, Hagrid's is actually 2 rides in one, and one version is better than the other. We'll get into that later. Your ride experience starts right where the Dueling Dragons entrance was. Once you enter, you get a nice view of the track layout. It's so fun to watch these trains cycle, especially with the rock-solid operations at Universal.
They only take the best of the best.
This is the only time you get to see the coaster until the loading station, so savor this moment. But if the lines aren't that long, you're just gonna walk right through this part. And the lines on this ride are notoriously long. It's almost a rite of passage to experience Hagrid's because there is no quick queue available here. But Universal has a couple tricks up their sleeve to make the waiting experience as enjoyable as possible. There is a brief outdoor switchback area with very little to look at, and it's in the sun, but you can almost see the Flight of Hippogriff coaster through the trees. Then you enter the main building. As one commenter said, the indoor queue has a separate time zone. The farther in you go, the faster it feels. And this is very true. He also said to like this video. His words, not mine. You are immediately thrown into a pre-show room. This pre-show is really well done. The sound system in this room is robust, and you even get sprayed with water at one point. This ultimately serves as an introduction to the story and the vehicles you'll be riding in. Next, you go through a hallway with a few switchbacks and a wall filled with giant eggs.
Scrambled eggs, your favorite.
Now you're heading into a surprisingly long cave section. This is my least favorite part of the queue. With mostly kids in the line, it can get very echoey and claustrophobic, and kind of scary to be honest. Now I will say, this part of the queue is nice and cool, but if I was a kid, it would definitely give me the creeps. The next room makes up for it for sure, because it's riddled with details, and you get introduced to some of the magical creatures that you'll see on your journey. But the station building, I love this station building. This roof has this awesome effect where it looks like Hagrid is riding around on the motorbike. You can even hear some dialogue if you listen closely. But now it's time to board via the ever-moving station, and you have to decide which side you want to ride, the motorbike or the sidecar. Everyone has their preferences, and each side has its pros and cons. I personally prefer the sidecar for a specific moment on the ride, which we will touch on in a second. Once the train leaves the station, the soundtrack begins to play, and the late Robbie Coltrane blesses us with a full voiceover.
Don't mind the thestrals. Dead clever and useful they are.
This onboard audio, in my opinion, is what really makes Hagrid stand out. I mean, just imagine if VelociCoaster had a custom soundtrack.
How cool would that be?
Out of the station, you enter your first launch. It's very small, but this is one of 7 launches, which is a record, by the way. Winding through some trees, you enter a second launch and an immediate left turn, a few small bunny hills, and then you meet up with Hagrid for a lesson. But then a blast-ended Scroot shows up. These 2 animatronics look really good, especially the one of Hagrid. And now for the third and second fastest launch. This section is the most intense part of the ride. You get some nice laterals over this lake, and this is where sitting in the sidecar comes into play because you can practically touch the water. And by the way, you might be thinking, man, this would look really cool at night. Well, like I mentioned earlier, Universal designed 2 rides in one, with the night ride being a completely new and elevated experience. The headlights on the bikes light up, and you can't see anything but darkness and trees. It really feels like you're flying through the Forbidden Forest. In entering the 4th launch, you are flying through the trees at this point. You get just a small moment to check out this amazing animatronic of Fluffy. Then one more launch, and then, uh-oh, you lose power. At night, all the headlights shut off, and you start going backwards. Believe it or not, you go through a launch section while going backwards, and into a show building where you become tangled in Devil's Snare. Okay, this is a slight spoiler, so skip ahead 15 seconds if you haven't ridden Hagrid's yet. This surprises me every time. You free fall in what I believe is the only drop track in Florida, a fantastic finale of the ride, and leaving the building, you're met with the final launch, reaching its top speed of 50 miles per hour. This launch is accompanied by a smoke trail. The entire train vibrates. It's super fun. And of course, no Hagrid's ride would be complete without the unicorn at the end. Despite its stellar operations nowadays, Hagrid's had a nightmare of an opening with 10-hour wait times as they were unable to run the promised 12 trains at a time. It faced tons of issues in its opening weeks, as we see many other coasters having similar problems. Click here to learn more about this trend and when it's going to end.